Good morning, student. This is Pranit, and let's resume the chapter Law Spring. Sahib too is wearing tennis shoes. Sahib Alam was wearing the shoes, which are tennis shoes, that look quite strange over his discolored short and shirt. So he was very poor man, poor boy. He could not afford shirts and short, and that's why the shoes were completely mismatched. Someone gave them to me, he says in a manner explanation. So these were the shoes which were given to him by someone, possibly a rich man. The fact that they are the discarded shoes of some rich boy, the fact that these were the shoes which were discarded by a rich boy. So usually when some people who have good shoes, good shirt, they usually discard, or they usually refuse to wear the shoes or the shirts or the pants which are not, they consider that they fine for them. So it happens also there, it has happened there also, who perhaps refused to wear them because of a hole in one of them. So the shoes Shaibe Alam was wearing, possibly one of those shoes was a whole shoe, there was a hole in the shoe, and that's why he was wearing the shoes, but the rich man whose shoes were there, they were discarded by him but given to Sahib Alam. But it does not bother him, it does not much make careful about those shoes, it does not worry him for one who has walked barefoot, because Sahib Alam is like a kind of person, or the boy who walked barefoot without shoes, without chappal. He was walking all the way. Even shoes with a hole is a dream come true. So if he's finding even a shoe, these were also like a dream come true. But the game he is watching so intently is out of, but he is watching the tennis game outside and it is completely out of his reach. This morning, now again random morning, Sahib Alam meets Anis Jung, or Anis Jung meets Sahib Alam. So Sahib is on his way to the milk booth. Now Sahib Alam is not having his rag picking bag, but he is going to milk booth. Why he is going? In his hand is a steel canister. So in his hand there is a canister in a steel. And then Sahib explains. Sahib says, I now work in a tea stall down the road. Sahib says that he is now an employee in a tea stall. So there is a tea shop, tea stall, and that's why in order to bring the supply for the tea, he is bringing milk. So in his hand is a steel canister. He says that I now work in a tea stall down the road. He says, pointing in a distance by indicating towards a shop that is there in the distance. I am paid 800 rupees and all my meals. He further says that I have 800 rupees to be paid and I have also my meals. Does he like the job? Then Anis Jung asks, do you like the job anymore? So his face, I see, has lost the carefree look. But Anis Jung says that she suddenly noticed that carefree look was completely vanished. The steel canister seems heavier than the plastic bag he would carry so lightly over his shoulder. A steel canister possibly heavier than the plastic bag that he carried so lightly, so comfortably over his shoulder. The meaning of this line is quite metaphorical. You know why? A steel canister is a metal. Naturally, we will think metal is heavier than a plastic bag. But actually, a steel canister is not only a metal kind of thing which is a burden. A steel canister also brings the responsibility of being a servant. When he was having a plastic bag, that time he was not the servant, he was a master of his own desires. Whatever he wanted to do, as much as he wanted to do the job, he could do that. Anytime he could stop, anytime he could take a break. But now he's the servant in a milk booth, in a tea stall, and that's why and that's why he is to be forced by someone else desire, someone else orders, he is to wait for that, and that's why he's working there. So a steel canister is much more heavier than the plastic bag. The canister belongs to the man who owns the tea shop. Sahib is no longer his own man, and this steel canister belongs to a man who owns the tea shop. So now he is no more his own master. That's why the steel canister is heavier than that plastic bag, because when he was having a plastic bag, that time he was his own master, but now he is not his own master. So he lost all his independence, his own mastership on himself. I want to, now here ends the part 1, which was giving an amplified explanation about the people living Simapuri district at the periphery of Delhi. Now there's a part 2, I want to drive a car. The story revolves around the laborers who are working in the glass bangle industry in Firozabad. So there is a boy whose name is Mukesh. So now the story is depicted through the perspective of Mukesh, and Anis Jung also visits Firozabad, which is a place in UP, and the Firozabad glass bangle industry is very famous all across country. So what is the condition and status of the people who are living there in the a life of grinding poverty and so on? It has been explained in this part 2 of Law Spring chapter. So here begins the chapter, part 2. I want to drive a car. there's a boy whose name is Mukesh. Part first, there was a boy whose name was Sahib Alam. In part second, there's a boy whose name is Mukesh. So Mukesh's statement begins the part second. I want to drive a car. Mukesh says, I want to drive a car. Mukesh insists being his own master. I will be a motor mechanic. Sahib Alam, in the last line, we had seen that Sahib Alam is no longer his own master. But Mukesh says that he compels that he wants to be his own master. I will be a motor mechanic. He says that I will do some different job. I will be a skilled mechanic. Do you know anything about cars? So Anis Jung says, I asked Sahib Alam, do you know anything about cars that you say you want to be a mechanic? So Mukesh says, I'm sorry, I said Sahib Alam, but here's Mukesh. So Mukesh says, I will learn to drive a car. So Mukesh says that I will learn if I do not know. He answers, looking straight into my eyes, very confident he is about his dream. But his dream looms like a mirage amidst the dust of his streets. Dreams looms like a mirage amidst the dust of streets that fill his town Firozabad. So the dream of Mukesh seems to be as if it will be hovering in the streams looms like a mirage amid the dust of streets that fills his town Firozabad. So it seems to be that his dream will vanish away like the clouds of dust that usually hover around the streets of Firozabad. In the same way, the dream would also be vanishing away. Famous for its bangles. So Firozabad, which is very famous for its bangles, in the same way as the dust of streets are full of clouds of dust, they usually mix up in a clean crisp air. In the same way will happen with the dream of Mukesh. Every other family in Firozabad is engaged in bangle making. So every other family, Firozabad is full of crowded, packed with the laborers of bangle making. It is center of India's glass blowing industry where families have spent generation. It is a center of India's glass blowing industry. And many families have spent generations working around furnaces, welding glass, making bangle for all the women in the land, it seems. So a lot of people, almost majority of the people are engaged in a glass bangle industries, and you know that in the factories of glass bangle, what are the things to be done, like furnaces are there, welding settlements are there. So these things should be there, and people and women are arranged and organized in them, and they are spending their time. Mukesh's family is among them. So Mukesh's family is one of those working in glass bangle industries. None of them know that it is illegal for children. Mukesh is just like a child, but Mukesh, like a lot of children, are also engaged in a glass bangle industry, and none of them know that. So illiterate they are that they do not know. Children like him to work in the glass furnaces with the high temperature in dingy cell without air and light, that the Lord and food could get him and all those 20,000 children out of hot furnaces. Children like him and some other who are working there in the glass bangle industry around the hot furnaces, it's very illegal, and around 20,000 children. If law will be honestly, devotedly enforced, then almost 20,000 children will be away, and they will be away from the hot furnaces. But in India, we cannot expect about the fulfillment of law and enforcement of law and so on. Often losing the brightness of their eye. Mukesh's eyes beam as he volunteers to take me home. So the eyes of Mukesh beam or focus or enlighten when he takes me to home. Where I am? Okay, almost 20,000 children can come out of the hot furnaces and the struggle where they are slogging their daylight hours. They are wasting their hours of daylight. They are losing their eyesight, often losing the brightness of their eyes. Mukesh's eye beam means focus, or beam means enlighten, as he volunteers to take me home, which he proudly says is being rebuilt. So Mukesh brings Anis Jung to his home, and he says that very proudly, very confidently, that it is being rebuilt. We walked down stinking lanes, choked with garbage, past homes that remain hovels with crumbling walls, wobbly doors, no window. So when we were walking down, there were the lanes which were very stinking. Foul smell was rising from the choked with the garbages were there. Past homes, they also passed the homes that remain hovels. Hovels are the crumbling walls are there. They are the broken walls, only structures. Wobbly doors were there. No windows were there. Crowded with the families of humans and animals coexisting in a primeval state. So the houses are in a very pitiable conditions. Walls are crumbling, broken. People and animals are living coexisting. They are living so closely as if in primeval state in a time of ancient when animals and humans had no more great separation among them. In the same way they were living there. Sahib Alam stops at the door of one such house, bangs a wobbly iron door with his foot. So Sahib Alam also stops any one of those houses because any one of those houses in that stinking lane was his house. So his wobbly iron door, he pushes it open. We enter a half-built shack. And then Sahib Alam entered a shack which was a half-built broken shack. Shack means a structure. In one part of it, thatched with the dead grass. So one part of the thatch was, one part of shack was thatched with the dead grass. Is a firewood stove over which sits a large vessel of sizzling spinach leaves. And under that thatch roof, there was a firewood stove, and on that firewood stove the sizzling spinach leaves were there and they were being boiled. On the ground in the large aluminium platter, so there was a plate like aluminium metal plate, it was. More means some more chopped vegetables were there. Frail mean a feeble, slim, thin young woman was also there sitting. She is cooking the evening meal for the whole family. Through eyes filled with smoke, she smiled, and her eyes, which are filled with smoke, she smiles at Sahib Alam. She smiles at Mukesh. She is the wife of Mukesh elder brother, and she is the wife of Mukesh elder brother. Not much older in years, she has begun to command respect as the Bahu. She is not so much mature. She is not adult, yet she has got the dignity or reputation as if she is the Bahu, the daughter-in-law of the house, already in the charge of 3 men. So she is a daughter-in-law, and she is in charge of 3 people: husband Mukesh, their father, etc. When the older man enters, she gently withdraws behind the broken wall. There is also a culture. They are very poor people, yet they are completely suppressed by the culture. So what may come, but culture is culture and to be followed. So when the older man enters, she gently withdraws behind the broken wall. जब बड़े बूढ़ा कोई भी अंदर आता है, then she very softly, very politely, in a very docile manner, goes behind the wall, withdraws herself and brings her veil closer to her face. As custom demand, daughters-in-law must veil their faces before male elder. This is the custom of their houses, their family, that whenever any elder male member come in front of the daughter, they must veil their faces. In this case, the elder is an impoverished bangle maker. Well, here the elder is only a man who is a bangle maker. Impoverished means very poor bangle maker. Despite long years of hard labor, he has done a very hard labor for many years. The father of Mukesh, first as a tailor he became, then a bangle maker. He failed to even renovate a house. Renovate means he cannot even rebuild a house, repair a house. Send his 2 sons to school. He could not educate the children. All he has managed to do is to teach them what he knows. And the one thing that he could do only, that is the art of making